Back in the late 1970s, when I was in law school down at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, Fayetteville, Arkansas, my apologies, and living in Futrall Hall, my roommate came in and said, "They've elected a new pope." I said, "Really?" "He's from Poland." I said, "You gotta be kidding me." You got to understand, in the late 70s, there were these things called Polish jokes, which thank God we don't do anymore. And I thought this was just a bad version of a Polish joke. So I didn't believe him. And he said, "No, I'm serious. Turn on the radio." Well, back then, of course, there's no cable TV. We turn on the radio, we get to the news channel, and sure enough, Cardinal Wojtyła from Krakow had been elected Pope and had chosen the name John Paul II. Well, needless to say, being of 100% Polish descent, I had some great joy inside of me. This is very nice. It's very different. There hadn't been a pope that wasn't an Italian since, I believe, the 1600s or something like that. Needless to say, hundreds and hundreds of years. This was quite a remarkable event. And the fact that Poland was governed by the communists, that a cardinal from that country could still be elected and be made pontiff, also impressed me. And so that began his pontificate, which coincided exactly along the time when I felt called to the priesthood. I have no doubt that the elevation of Cardinal Wojtyła to the papacy had something to do with me following the road to ordination. And of course, when you go to seminary under Pope John Paul II and you get ordained under the pontificate of John Paul II, and then during my one trip to Rome, I actually got to meet him and literally kneel before him, and he didn't want anyone to kiss him, but he was happy to shake my hand. I have a picture of that, hangs in my chapel. I remember when I came back, and of course my mother had a picture of that made, and it was really quite something. And this is long before they were going to make him a saint. And what I remember about Pope John Paul II, many things to think about, but one thing that stands out with me is the man always had a smile on his face. There aren't very many pictures of the Pope without a smiling face. He definitely was a projection of the joy of the gospel. He lived the joy of the gospel. And he traveled all around this globe and appeared to millions upon millions of people, and always smiling and always bringing joy. Because to him, to be ordained and to become a bishop and then become the Pope was something with great responsibility. And in that responsibility was to share the good news. And that good news is a news of joy, that Christ has risen from the dead, what we celebrate today. He rose from the dead. He rose from the dead for me. He rose from the dead for you. He rose from the dead for all of us. And if we but open our lives to his presence and let his grace take us over, then we too can be vessels of that joy and share that joy to others. One of the things that Pope John Paul II enjoyed doing very much was blessing. All the time he's blessing. You watched him wherever he went, he's got that hand out his, and he'd make that sign of the cross, he'd to the left, and he'd make it to the right. I don't know how he kept that arm going sometimes, because he wouldn't stop. Back and forth, and he just loved sending God's blessings. Well, there's one story about him which I will never forget. It's when he visited England. And he's in England, and he's getting out of the Pope Mobile, and he's about to go into one of these soccer stadiums. I guess they call it football over there. soccer. Anyway, so there's a large group of people at the entrance, and he stops, and as he always would do, he blessed them. And one lady looked up and said, "Well, God bless you too, Holy Father," and made the sign of the cross back. This caused a stir. And some of the people were not happy with the woman blessing the Pope back. The Pope saw that, and he stopped, and he walked over to that woman, and he said to the crowd as a whole, "I need blessings too. I need as many blessings as I can get." And then asked the crowd to bless him. And the crowd blessed him. Because it probably hadn't occurred on them that blessings are not just to be received, blessings are to be given. We receive blessings in many ways. From our childhood, hopefully we receive those blessings from our parents. Maybe we receive blessings when we have a good teacher. Maybe we have blessings when we have someone, especially when we're new at a job, who teaches us the ropes and how to do something. Sometimes we receive blessings because we have a good doctor who was able to cure something that we had. Blessings come to us in many ways. But after we receive those blessings, we really should think about how we then can become a blessing for others. The Pope blessed those people, but he was more than happy to receive a blessing as well. Blessings go both ways. That's one thing I learned from Pope John Paul II. And what I'm going to ask all of you today to do, and you can do this after Mass, and if you want to record it on your phone, great, and if you want to send it into our Facebook page, that would be great. But what I would ask you to do is that whoever you're watching this with today, whether you're with your kids or your grandkids or your spouse or whoever you're watching with, give each other a blessing. Because they are the people who are looking after you, who care about you, and are sharing their lives with you. They are the people who are a blessing to you. So take a few moments today and be a blessing for them. And I'm going to conclude with a sung blessing that I have done many, many times. You may feel free to use this blessing or any other blessing you care to look up. The point is not the exact words of it. What's important is how you feel behind it and how much you want to let the other person know that they are important to you, that you know they care about you, and that they know that they are a blessing in your life. So please bow your heads. May the blessing of God be upon you, the blessing of the Father and the Son, and may the Spirit of love be with you all your days.